welcome back to Wichita's Biz That Is on KGPT. I'm Tim Witzman, and our guest today is Claudia Ralston. And we had just gotten to her venture that she started in Alabama. Tell me how you decided what you would have. I mean, what you wanted to have within your store.
Oh, now the store didn't get started until I was back up here.
Okay.
It kind of came about because our club was at one of the big shows in Kansas City. And of course there were vendors all around the room. And when people would leave the booth where we were, I noticed that most of them went to the places where the little things were. Mm-hmm. The details, the trees, the figures, that sort of stuff. And I got to thinking about it, and there is another train store in town, but they had kind of decided that G-scale wasn't fitting into what they were doing. And so we really had nobody in town that was supporting.
You might explain G-scale.
Oh, pardon me. G-scale is the largest of the model trains. Most people will know HO trains, which are the smaller ones, about so big. Lionel, which is O. And then G-scale is about twice the size of Lionel. Mm-hmm. And so nobody was really supporting us in town. It's the sort of thing that you don't mind if you're spending $500 on an engine to spend $20 to get it here. But if you're buying a $9 figure, you hate to spend $10 to get it here.
Right.
So I was trying to think if it would work out, if we could have a small store here in town that dealt with the little things, not so much the big things, because there are people who can sell things for what I can buy them for, the big ones. And so that's how the store kind of got started.
Interesting. Have you seen, I'll send it to you if you haven't seen it. Germany has this new thing they're putting out. It's got planes taking off,
oh, yes.
Trains.
Yes, Wonderland.
It's unbelievable.
Yes. There's miles and miles of track. It's run, if you've ever seen, like you've seen it, the pictures of the studio where they watch it, it's more detailed than some of the NASA things.
Really?
It's totally computer simulated. They have
those
cars.
Germans.
They have cars that run on the streets. It goes from day and night. I think it's every 15 or 20 minutes it rotates. So the lights come on in the buildings, the lights come on in the cars, and the trains run and stop, and people, it's amazing.
Well, how do you decide what things to keep? I mean, is this partly a matter of what you see demand on?
Yes, and every once in a while I think I should hire somebody else to go marketing, because the things I think are neat, not everybody thinks are neat.
Same
so
here.
They sit for a while. But yeah, it's the things that, like if you're working in the yard and you're laying track and you're using clamps to put the track together and you discover you're short 5 pieces of clamp, you'd like to be able to run somewhere and pick up 5 clamps and go back to work instead of putting an order into somebody and a week later getting it. Mm-hmm. So it's those kind of things, the clamps and figures and track. And
those are the things that sell real well? Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I have a lot of consignment that comes in, so that there are rolling stock and locomotives and things for people to choose from, but that's not the big push.
It's not the bread and butter.
Yeah.
Give us the address.
Okay. It's 1425 North Broadway, and I always use La Chinita Restaurant as my focal point, because a lot of people in town know where that is, and I'm just next door to that.
I think this first time we've really done an address, but it's because you're really not located in a strip mall or with anybody else. It's a home.
Well, it was once, but it's been commercial, I think, for 20 or 30 years.
Okay.
It's in a commercial area.
With things out in the backyard to see.
Oh, yes. There is a train layout in the backyard. The track stays out all the time. Most of the time I leave the buildings out, because if people are just learning and want to see what's going on, then you have to have something for them to look at. The train does not run very often. Mm-hmm. And if I were clones, it would run more frequently. But it's hard to be inside and run it outside at the same time.
Well, we're going to get some bad weather here. What do you do those times? Just
nothing.
Nothing.
Just instead of when we have our hailstorms or our torrential, our tornadic winds, you know, I sometimes go pick buildings up and glue them back together, but that's about it.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of stuff, which this year I may try to get some of my stuff out. It's been accumulated over a long period of time. And I've got to even find out whether I've still got my old train from childhood. I'm not sure whether I've got it or not.
Well, strangely enough, a lot of people actually use G-scale inside as well as outside.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm not that big a home, so don't think I'm going to go to G. What things do you think would be most interesting to somebody who, let's say they're not a club type person, you know, and they're just looking to begin? What do you think's most interesting that you have?
Well, first of all, they can just come look. There's a number of very good small paperback magazines, books that have come out on how to do it, and I let people read them, and then I kind of visit with them, because some of the people who write the information are in California, who have an entirely different environmental situation. I mean, they can put track out. The ground does not heave. They don't have frost. They don't, you know. Our year, when it goes from 100 to minus 20, it's in a different situation than, you know, California, where it's, you know, 70 or 80 all year round. So I visit with them, you know, and suggest to them, if they're really interested, that they start with something small, you know, get a loop going first. And otherwise, sometimes people have such big ideas that they get burned out before they ever get it done.
Right.
So if you have something small like a loop, then you can watch it run while you're expanding.
Oh, yeah, and that's the fun.
Oh, yes. And people always say, well, when are you going to be done? And it's like, well, when I'm too old to play with it.
Yeah, that's with a lot of people who have hobbies. Well, we'll be right back in a moment, and we're going to show you some of what Claudia has to offer on our next segment of Wichita's Biz That Is.